Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to our Review webinar series. Give everyone just a minute to get in here. Today's is all about finding a preceptor, which I know can be quite a hassle in nursing, not nursing school. Nursing school is a whole other beast, but for nurse practitioner programs, I know myself finding a preceptor was quite the nightmare. I was lucky to have help along the way. I'll just give everyone one more minute to get on in here and then we'll get going. All right, looks like people are joining us. So welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Hope everyone's week is off to a good start. It's super sunny where I am, so happy there. We are going to talk all about finding a preceptor today. And then at the end, there will be a QR code for our free preceptor webinar handbook. And I will also put the link in the chat for that as well. So you can have that as a resource when you are finding a preceptor, thinking about a preceptor, becoming a preceptor, which is always awesome. So we will get started. So just a refresher on what is required for FNPs and AGNPs through ANCC and AANP. And remember, these are different than your state requirements. These are also different from your school requirements. So technically for ANCC and AANP to sit for your exam, you only need 500 hours of supervised clinical. And there has been a little bit of change what they consider supervised clinical. So sometimes this can be online. I've had some students of mine who do like virtual clinical. They join in on telehealth and those sort of things. It really did change during the pandemic to a variety of different clinical settings. But most times nowadays, you are physically in office with a NP or a DO or an MD or a PA, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Just a note, these are separate from your program's requirements to graduate. So I know my program required 800 hours of clinical. So even though I technically could sit for ANCC or AANP at 500 hours, my specific program still wanted 800 hours. So just something to keep in mind. And throughout this, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or you can save them to the end. We'll do a Q&A then as well. What oversees different programs, so who sets the standard for what a nurse practitioner program is called the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education, CCNE. So they don't set any specifics. I do know of some programs that require up to 1,000 hours, which seems like a lot, but honestly, it can be beneficial because then once you get to practice, you feel totally prepared and really ready, not like you have no idea what you're doing at all. We all get imposter syndrome, but I do find that the students who do more clinical hours have a better outcome when they get to practice. They're just a little more confident in their skills. So who can be a preceptor? This again depends on your program. So my program was totally fine with me being precepted by a doctor, an NP, but not a PA. So that was an interesting difference there. Some programs are totally fine. I currently have a student in my clinic who goes between myself, so I'm an NP, and our PA, and her program is totally fine with that. So I would just check with your program. It is nice if they allow MDs or DOs or PAs, because then it kind of expands the different people who could help you out along the way, because I know finding a preceptor can be a big task. Again, CCNE does not specify qualifications to precept. There are usually program-specific requirements. One that's pretty interesting that we do see a lot is they do want board certified doctors if they are precepting you. So doctors are a little bit different than nurse practitioners, and they can practice without being board certified. Most are board certified just because of the area they work in, but some let it, lapse if they're retiring soon or what other reasons, I'm not sure, but they must be board certified to precept in some programs. So I know my program specifically wanted board certified NPs, board certified DOs or MDs, and then PAs as well. If they allowed them, I'm sure they would want them board certified. So just something to check. And technically in some states, I believe there's 2 out there still. NPs don't have to be board certified to practice, but they're obviously preferred to be board certified. And I believe those states are going to be changing that pretty soon. So again, check with your program who can be a preceptor before you even get started, just so you know who you're looking at, who you're looking for, and who could potentially help you out. So finding a preceptor, oh, the joys. Some programs help you, which is great. Some programs don't help you so much. Technically, through CCNE, they do not have to help you. There's a little bit of misinformation out there on that they're required to help you. And most of them skirt around this by just saying, oh, we reach out to our usuals, and if they can't do it, we can't really help them. Or they blame the pandemic, which definitely did affect things, but not to that level, especially now 4 years later. We are finding that most places are allowing students again. I know that during the height of the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, many places wanted the least amount of people possible, so they cut out students, unfortunately. So resources, program-based specialist is always a good place to start. So do you have someone in your program that helps you reach out to preceptors? Can you reach out to others in Facebook groups? So I'm in a Facebook group of all the students who went to my program. And a lot of times I see people post there like, hey, does anyone know a preceptor in this state or that state? That can be really helpful. Your existing network is huge. For myself, I reached out to a doctor that I actually worked as a medical assistant for. And I said, hi, it's me. Are you willing to precept? And she was. So that was a huge benefit to me. Honestly, ask your primary care physician when you're in for your physical. Say, hey, do you precept here? If so, who would I talk to about that? Some programs, some different clinics are very easy. You just need to sign a agreement with the doctor. That's more like a private practice situation. And some larger organizations really have a tough process. Some even require interviews if they're that competitive. So just be prepared for a wide variety of what might be required for you. Professional sources can help as well. So there are those pay for placement services. Those can be very beneficial in some cases. I would caution you against using them primarily because they can get pretty expensive, but worst case scenario, they are out there. They can be up to a couple $1,000s to place you for a preceptor. And then Google Maps. This is kind of a silly one, but honestly, look around you. Are there private practices you've never heard of? I know by me, there's a couple doctors that practice alone. So I would call them. I'd reach out to them if I were looking for a preceptor, and I'd say, hi, my name's Rachel. I'm a nurse practitioner student. Are you willing to precept me? This is what it would entail. Reaching out can be the scariest part. So I've prepared a script, and I have one in this presentation as well as in the preceptor handbook that I will send you all at the end. And this is just something, you can fall back on until you get in there, you get ready. You can practice it, tailor it to what you need. I think it's helpful, especially for me, eases my mind, eases my nerves when I know what I need to say to them. Be very specific. So I know in my clinic, when I'm getting a student request, I need to know when you want to be precepted. Is this an everyday thing? Is this a once a week thing? What are you looking for? And then obviously the dates. So is this a year? Are you looking for just a semester's worth, just 6 weeks worth? What are you looking for? That can really help, especially if they are working a busy schedule. Always have your resume and your transcript ready. So I like to see my preceptees' transcripts, their resumes, what they've been up to. That can help too, just kind of build the case so they're finding it easier, and it might help you get hired too. So they're finding it easier to precept you when they know you have a strong nursing background, and then as well as possibly get hired after. If you are looking at an OBGYN office and they see that you've been an L&D nurse for 10 years, that might also help you get a job if they're like, oh, and we're also looking for a new nurse practitioner. I would always follow up at least twice per site. This can feel a little naggy, and I totally get that, but following up is huge. They might have just forgotten about your email. Life gets busy, clinics get busy. I would follow up, and that really shows that you do want this, you're serious about it, and you are in it for the long haul. You really want to be a part of their clinic. I know to me, that would really make a difference, especially because my email box is super full all the time. So I'd say, oh, yep, this person reached out. Let me look at my schedule. If you can, do an in-person drop-in. I would call beforehand and talk to the front desk staff, if they have front desk staff, about what their hours are and when they might be available. Do they take a lunch? Would they be willing to chat during that time? Or just stop by and tell them what's up. Tell them you're looking for a preceptor, drop off your resume and your contact information. But I really have found when people show up and really show their interest, this is how they get connected to those preceptors. And then always be realistic. You might not hear back, and that's all right. No one likes being ghosted, but it happens. People get busy. If they're a part of a large organization, they might just be inundated with different preceptor requests all the time, and they might not get back to you. They could say no. So that happens. No, we don't have the capacity to take on a student right now. No, we don't take students at all, or just flat out no without no reason. That can happen too. There might be wait lists. So I know the organization that I worked for as a nurse had about a year-long wait list to be precepted. So what this means for you as a student is reach out early. Don't wait until you need a preceptor next week. Reach out the year before and say, hey, I'm looking at a preceptor for May 2025. Please let me know if you'd be interested in doing this. For a lot of people too, they do need to schedule out that far. So I know for myself in my clinic, we have students all ready for the spring and fall. So the next student cohort we'd be able to take would be winter 2024 to 2025, which seems so far away, but it really comes up quickly. So all that's to say, please reach out early. Get yourself on the wait list, get your name out there, and keep reaching out. Be a little naggy. That's totally fine. And another realistic setting expectation goal for me was being realistic on the setting. So I knew I had a interest in OBGYN, women's health, and primary care, but I did do a rotation through a cardiology outpatient clinic too, and it was a great experience. So don't pigeonhole yourself into, oh, I just need primary care, I just need pediatrics. You really can adjust what you need to your setting. So for example, a lot of people need women's health hours, and that can vary what counts as women's health. Sometimes even like UTIs count as women's health. So you could feasibly get those hours done in something like an urgent care. So really do not limit yourself to the setting. Obviously, if you absolutely need pediatrics, then yeah, you can't go to a place that only sees adults, but really just being open to any setting. Plus, you might fall in love with some specialty you had no idea you would even like and potentially find a job there. So just always being open to different settings and open to any sort of response you could get. The best response, of course, is yes, we will precept you. The worst is no, but you tried, and who knows, things can change. Maybe they have someone drop out, maybe their schedule opens up. Just getting your name out there is the biggest step. So here's an example script. So I'll just walk you through this basically. Obviously, we're kind. We open it nicely. Hope this message finds you well. A big thing is saying your name, and I'm a current NP student at wherever. Bonus if it's in the area. So I went to a school in Boston. I live outside of Boston. So it was kind of nice to be like, and I go to this school, it's nearby, those sort of things. I know that online universities exist too, but perhaps they've heard of it. Maybe they know someone, they can connect the dots, connect feeling like they're part of it too. People like those connections. So always say you're a nurse practitioner student at whatever school or university. And then, just explain what you need. You have this wealth of experience. I'm looking to learn. would you be my preceptor for the upcoming semester? This is the start date and the end date. Always say you're flexible and willing to accommodate their schedule. That's always a nice thing to hear. We love flexibility as nurse practitioners who precept students. So just letting them know that, hey, I don't need 100% of this. If you can only give me, 90% of my hours, I'll make it work, those sort of things. And that's part of being realistic, is just knowing that you might have to finagle a couple different sites together to get the hours you need. Then obviously giving them your contact information at the end. I always give my phone number too. Some doctors, some PAs, some NPs like to call or, speak to you on the phone or face-to-face potentially. And sometimes that's easier than email as well. One of my preceptors is a huge texter, so she always just texted me like the days that I could come in. But I always find that giving your phone number is helpful, just so they can reach out on their own and get any questions answered right away versus email, which can be a little laggy sometimes. So now let's talk about professional networks. So in a second, I'm going to pull up something called EPN Network, and this is a really great resource. It can have different preceptors from different states available. This is something I personally used when I was looking for a preceptor. Then, of course, there's LinkedIn. Sounds kind of weird to find a preceptor on LinkedIn, but honestly, just searching for NPs or MDs or PAs in your area on LinkedIn and reaching out can be huge. You can say, hi, again, this is what I need. This is my name, all those things. Remember to always communicate professionally, even if it's over social media, especially in today's day and age where we have things like Instagram, TikTok. I don't think you'll be reaching out to anyone on TikTok, but maybe there are some clinicians out there who do TikTok. Just always being professional. You don't want to kind of dumb it down just because it's social media. We always want to be our most professional self. State Board of Nursings also sometimes have lists of preceptors. Sometimes they're horribly out of date, but I would always start there, always look, because if someone was willing to put themselves on the State Board of Nursing's website as a preceptor, chances are they really do like having students and they might have multiple openings. So now let's take a look at the EPN. Stop sharing that and I will open up a window with that so we can kind of walk through it together. All right, so this is the EPN network. So it's a professional network. I suggest joining or signing up when you're a nurse practitioner yourself, regardless if you want to precept or not. So it really has nurse practitioner events, which I love, great opportunities for CEs there. It has jobs, which obviously everyone's looking for a job at the end of school for the most part. So it can be a great place to find a job. Has some updates on the industry. So this can be different states passing laws about nurse practitioners, just kind of FYIs all about them. And then one that we're really looking at here is the nurse practitioner preceptors. So when you're an NP, get listed. I listed myself there. Obviously, if you're able and willing to precept students, some people wait like a couple of years, which is totally understandable. But you can list yourself there. And more importantly, as a student, you can search. So these are different ways you can search preceptors. So you can search students if you are a preceptor. There's preceptor passes and there's getting listed, but I always go to search preceptors. So you can see all of these different preceptors listed. So we have Jacksonville, Florida, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Hawaii, Georgia, Florida again, Illinois, Florida. And it really walks you through the different specialties. So let's look at this one in Texas. There's adult, psychiatric, and mental health, which can be huge, especially if you're a psych mental health NP or on that track or thinking about that track after your FNP. So this is telehealth. So that's a big thing to note. Some are outpatient and telehealth. Some are just outpatient. Really important to note that because, again, some programs don't allow for telehealth. So really important to know that. Let's open one up. Let's see. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is family and in-home testing. So then I would click on it. And then you have to buy the preceptor pass, which is a little bit Oh, I thought I had it already. All right. Well, we'll just keep looking at different ones. So it really has a good listing of all these different ones. Like this is a really interesting one. There's a family nurse practitioner, over 15 years experience, totally gives an update on primary care, urgent care, 3-year-old to end of life. That's really helpful because you can say, okay, maybe I'll see some pediatrics here. And that can be helpful depending on what specialties you're looking at. So again, this is called EPN Network, and I would definitely sign up for it if you're looking for a preceptor. I don't think it's very expensive. I think it's totally worth it to be able to connect. Like I've seen at least 10 different states go by, so that's huge. All right, back to our webinar now. So again, that's the EPN network, and I would sign up for that. I would become a member. I would join after you are a nurse practitioner. If you're a nurse practitioner listening in now and you're willing to precept, I would definitely join that network, put up a listing. It's so helpful to students. We all have been there. We all know how stressful it is to find a preceptor in your area and not have to drive, 3 states away just to be precepted. Now that we've talked all about preceptorship, I want to talk a little bit about Archer Review and our question bank, because if you're here, you're more than likely taking your exam sometime in the future. And we'll go over our preceptor handbook too at the end, don't worry. So our Archer Review question bank has over 1,400 questions. It's filtered to fit your needs, which I'll talk a little bit about on the next slide. The most important thing is it's formatted like the exam. So we really have done a good job going through. We have a team of nurse practitioners who have taken AANP, taken ANCC, and are practicing NPs. And they've gone through and not only tagged the questions, so they're most updated with the newest test plans, but also made sure they're formatted like the exams. We also have a very accurate pass predictor. And we are doing a free question bank right now. So I would definitely go on and take advantage of that. We're doing a free 30 days currently. So if you are in the mood to start your FNP or AGNP, it works for now. Or it works for both. If you are looking for some extra practice questions, I would definitely sign up. And this is what they look like when you are doing the practice questions. So they have a question ID. That's not really pertaining to you, but question type, single choice. So there are some select all that apply for ANCC. Although ANCC is kind of backing away from select all that apply, they're still in our question bank, just so you're prepared. There's a subject, so like prenatal, geriatric, adult, pediatrics, lesson. So this is ear, eyes, nose, and throat. Test plan. This is really important because if you don't pass your exam, you will get a breakdown of your least to best performance area of the test plan. So say you get it back and you weren't very good at assessment. You can filter out questions by test plan. Then related topics, again, that's as prenatal. And this one applies to AANP and ANCC. And it's a medium difficulty question, which you can also filter for. So let's practice a question here. So we have an adult patient presenting with mild allergic rhinitis. She has flare-ups every spring. Which of the following medication types should be first-line therapy? Give everyone a second. You can think your answer to yourself. You can put it in the chat. That's totally fine too. Give everyone a second. All right, I see some correct answers coming through there. Give everyone one more second. All right, so we'll go over to what the answer would look like. So choice B is correct. So this patient is exhibiting mild intermittent allergic rhinitis. So those intranasal antihistamines are recommended. Second generations of the antihistamines like Zyrtec are also an option for first-line therapy. And every question has this breakdown of why the other choices were incorrect. the learning objectives, and then any information source. So if you're wondering, oh, where can I get more information about this topic? Sources are always included with every question. You all did a super good job with that one. We'll do one more and then we'll talk a little bit about our ebook. So an older adult patient now, with which of the following physical assessment findings triggers further evaluation for COPD? We have clubbing, lung percussion is dull, early inspiratory crackles, and stridor. This is a hard one, so this would be labeled hard in the question bank. Give everyone a second to answer this one. It's like most answers coming through are correct. So early inspiratory crackles are oscillated at the beginning of inspiration and are not present at the end of inspiration. Crackles are due to those secretions. So this is something we definitely want to be looking into. They're strongly correlated with COPD. As we know, those lungs do not function very well when a patient has COPD. And again, it goes through why the other answers are incorrect and then gives you a good resource if you need to look up more of the physical signs with COPD. And again, every question is formatted like this in our question bank. And we're offering a free 30 days right now. So I definitely get on that. You'll absolutely love it. I promise. We worked very hard on it. So now let's talk about our ebook. I will leave this up here while I talk about it a little bit. And then I will also put the link to it in the chat so you can pull it up later. If you need the link later, you can always send us an email as well. So I'll leave this up for a second while I talk about it, and I'll put the links in the chat. Link. All right. Give everyone a second to pull that up and then we'll walk through it together. All right. So if you got that ebook pulled up, and I'll pull it back up in a second, this is what it looks like. You can download it, you can print it, you can do whatever you want with it. So just some FAQs again, like what counts as clinical hours, who can be a preceptor, what resources exist, and then just some things that we talked about, like getting started, finding potential sites. Again, that EPN network has a link in there. And then just, again, some guidelines to go by: reaching out, following up. I even put space every 10 to 14 days for those follow-ups. And I do like 2 follow-ups ideally. I know that it's a lot, but I really, really recommend not letting those questions go unanswered. They will get back to you hopefully sooner than that, but it can happen that it just gets filtered away somewhere, and you reaching out again reminds them and potentially secures you a site. So in this, we also included a sample email. Obviously, tailor it to how you need, but just, gives you a base, gives you something to go off of, makes it a little bit easier when you're reaching out. A little tip is you can blind CC different people. Don't CC them so they know you're reaching out to a bunch of different people, but you can blind CC them as well. Although you would have to then change this a little bit to make it more general versus specific. But if you were reaching out to a ton of places, that is an option. Also have a sample phone script. I know, like many millennials, I hate talking on the phone. So this would be super helpful. It gives you something to fall back on, just kind of the flow of how it should be, get the connection going, express your interest, highlight why this would be beneficial to either you or them or both of you, and then do the ask. I'm possibly asking if you would be willing to precept me. We also included a sample resume as well, because a lot of these places do want a resume on file. I always like to keep my resume up to date just because it's easiest when you're working in a job, you know what you're doing, all those things. But it's a little different when you're a student because you want to include your professional experience and include those clinical rotations. So as a nurse practitioner, student, whatever you've done, include that so they can see where you're coming from and what you could offer potentially. Definitely include skills and awards. Different languages spoken can be really helpful as well. And then we also included in this my clinical outreach plan. So if you have a couple potential sites lining up, you can put them down in your outreach plan just to keep track of them. And then just a little page of notes. So this is available from this QR code that I will pull back up. And it's also in the chat. And if you need it sent again, you can always email us over at fnp@archerreview.com. So let's do a little Q&A now. If you have any questions about Archer Review, specifically the question bank, finding a preceptor, my experience as a preceptor. Oh, someone said they'll share this with their nursing program. That's so sweet of you. Really, if you have any needs, you can always email us at fnp@archerreview.com. I have a lot of experience precepting students and also helping people find preceptors and finding preceptors for myself. Unfortunately, I was alone in doing that. So it was a difficult situation, but I promise you, you will find a preceptor. It just sometimes takes a little extra effort. Let's see if we have any other questions coming in from Facebook or YouTube. It's like someone asked how soon you should reach out. Honestly, it's never too soon to reach out to a preceptor. Obviously, if you're starting your program and you have like a 3-year-long program and you need it in year 3, it might be a little soon, but I'm already getting requests for 2025 and looking at the calendar and getting students on it. So it's never too early. It's also never too late. So don't panic if you don't have a preceptor. Just keep reaching out, make those connections, reach out to your network. You will find one. All right. More questions coming on in. Someone asked about the board certification. So that depends on your program. Most do want board certified NPs, MDs, DOs, PAs. I'm not sure if you can work as a PA without board certification, but most do want board certified clinicians to be precepting. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, but I do know that most want it. And some don't, unfortunately, allow doctors to precept, which is a little bit of a limiting factor, but that's just program requirements. Someone else asked if you can sit for your boards even if your clinical hours are not done. Technically, yes, you can sit for AANP and ANCC once those 500 hours are completed. But if your school allows that, that's kind of up in the air too. ANCC requires a VOE, which is called a verification of education. Some schools will not sign it until you're totally done. And as of late, for whatever reason, AANP has kind of required different letters sometimes if a student's not truly done. So it totally depends. Let's see, I can send the link. Let me know if this link works for you. It should be a shareable link. If not, I should be able to put the PDF right in here. If that doesn't work, you can always email us at fnp@archerreview.com and we can send you directly the PDF if the Google link is not working, but it should allow you to view it. But I'm always happy to send over the PDF if you want to send it out to your friends or you just want it to print off. That's totally fine. You can always email us at fnp@archerreview.com. All right, I'll give one more minute for any other questions. All right. So if you have any contact info that you want to share with others, or you have preceptors, you can drop that in the chat too. Honestly, finding preceptors, utilize your students around you. So, if someone in your area had a preceptor nearby and they said, I have a preceptor in Minnesota and that's where I'm doing my clinical, and you live near them, ask them for their information. A lot of times people like to stick with the same schools because one, the paperwork is less, and two, they kind of know what they're getting, which can be really beneficial. So if you're around, if you have a preceptor or you want to share with anyone, feel free to drop your info in the chat for other students. And then lastly, before we wrap this up, I do want to talk about FNP at Archer Review. And this does apply to AGNPs as well. You've probably heard of our NCLEX program. It's wildly successful, but we are branching into the world of FNP and AGNP. Super excited for this. We have a question bank currently, just like we practiced and I talked about. It has over 1,400 questions. It's $29, so a pretty low cost for so many questions. And we have a free trial running right now. We have on-demand videos coming soon, so for all your studying needs. And then we're going to keep these weekly live reviews and be adding in some case studies starting very soon. So that will just really get you in the mindset for passing your exam, or even if you've already passed, practicing for boards. You already passed your boards, for the real world and for your patients. We'd love if everyone gave us a follow at Archer FNP on Instagram. Join our Facebook group and follow us on Facebook and share it to your friends. We're kind of new to this FNP AGNP space, but we're super excited to be here. Like I said, all of our on staff FNPs work in the field and past ANP and ANCC, so they totally have the most up-to-date information. You can scan the QR code there for all the future webinars, so you're automatically registered, or you can always register on our website. You don't need to pre-register. You can register day of. That is totally fine. But I hope that you all have a wonderful night. If you have any other questions, you can throw them in. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes and then let you all get on your way. And I will see you next week. Next week's webinar is all about care of the pregnant patient. So something I'm super passionate about. I worked in OBGYN before primary care, and something that can be a little glazed over in school. So if you have any concerns or questions, I definitely join in next week. Or if you just want to prep for your exam in the real world, definitely tell your friends to join us. We're looking forward to these weekly sessions and continuing to grow. So I'll just stick around for a couple more minutes for any questions. And if not, you all have a great week. Someone asked where they can get these videos. They're up on our YouTube channel, actually. So we're going to be putting them there, and then we'll be uploading our content review and case studies into our actual interface where you could access them again and again, which is super helpful. All right, everyone. If we're all set on questions, I will let you all go back to your lives. Thank you for joining me today. Again, if you have any questions, please email us at fnp@archerreview.com. I'm happy to chat with you about absolutely anything from school to boards to beyond. We're super excited to start this, and thank you all for joining me tonight.